The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
On December 15, 2023, the National Bank of Georgia granted a digital banking license to Pave Bank Georgia. Pave Bank intends to operate as a digital bank to integrate financial products and link them with digital assets and programmable accounts. The bank aims to serve technology-driven companies. BMG's Business Evening host Georgy Aronia talked to Pave Bank's Chief Executive Officer Salim Dhanani about Pave Bank's goals in Georgia and beyond. Let's watch the interview.
Salim, hi. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss number 17th commercial bank in Georgia, Pave Bank. You've been recently granted the digital bank license from the National Bank of Georgia. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to discuss Pave Bank in more detail.
Gamarjaba, and thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss what we're doing and the things we're trying to achieve for the Georgian market and also globally.
Salim, let's begin the interview with a broad question. I'd like to ask you, what is Pave Bank and what are its main competitive advantages?
You start with the easiest one first. I like that. Thank you. So when we started to build the concept of Pave Bank, we looked at the global landscape. We looked at where is the direction of financial services. I believe that we're at a monumental shift in what financial services means to the world because of a few underlying technologies that are coming out and becoming more prevalent and more regulated. So I'll give you an example. Think of how you consume information today and how you consumed information before the smartphone. It was very different, even the internet. I think what we're seeing now is the evolution of money. And we looked at was a blockchain in the financial system in a regulated way only, so CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, for which Georgia is at the forefront of innovation. And we're seeing the likes of the European Central Bank and also the FCA in the UK also following suit, and Singapore, and you're seeing a lot of these changes happen. So we looked at this and said, how do we look at these monumental shifts that are taking place and really distill down the benefits that are going to be needed for retail customers, so mainly corporates and businesses. We're a business bank and very much focused on businesses. And how do we take these benefits and offer it and find a way to disseminate it out? So what does that actually mean? So so we're building a corporate bank, business banking. We want to bring these benefits out. Now, it means that we want to take these innovations and package them in a way that allow businesses to either save money more efficiently, be that through dollar-denominated assets, or be also lari-denominated assets, euros essentially as well, or be it because they want an easier way to send money abroad instead of taking 3 days and not knowing where your money is, to move it in 10 seconds. What that means is unlocking liquidity globally as well. And then we look at down the line, we'll look at credit, and we'll look at how do we really provide, I think risk assessment is going to evolve, and it's going to change dramatically. And different for all of these products, these big products that I've talked about, and these use cases, no two businesses are the same. And I think that a lot of the frustrations that we see is that you never get hyper customizability. It's never hyper personalized to each business, and that's okay. We understand that because it's not been cost effective, but we're seeing waves of technology, like with AI, for example, being integrated into financial services that will allow businesses, banks and financial services to be able to offer hyper customized solution to businesses. And I think that we want to take these broad technology trends, we're packaging them up in very digestible ways and offering it to solve those three key pillars for SMEs and also businesses in Georgia and also globally.
So one of the aspects that Pave Bank offers to its customers is programmability. I'd like to ask you, what does that mean in concrete terms? In concrete terms,
your bank, we want to make the world's first smart bank. So what it means from a pure, let me start with a technology standpoint and let me talk about value, right? So I think we are seeing money turn into more software languages. So if you think of the partnership with Ripple, if you look at SWIFT, if you look at RTGS, if you look at Global Layer 1, which is the regulated layer one blockchain from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. We're seeing these, layer one like software languages where on top of which money and value will be programmed. We want to allow either businesses that are very tech savvy or third parties building apps to allow facilitation of that level of programmability and which is basically customizability for products that matter to them. Let me give you an example. We spoke today to a business that wanted, embedded finance, and their problem was access to the APIs and the fact that they could not give them the right information, for example. And so they can, with Pave Bank, for example, you can go in and you can literally type in the API that you would like and it will generate it for you. Another example would be every business in Georgia has to submit monthly tax. Every business. And I'm sure that it's something that's needed. We require it, as a country, but it's not necessarily, it's an operational heavy task. How do we automate that? How do we make that simpler, better, easier for the businesses? Because all this fluff over here prevents the businesses from doing what their core business is. And so we want to make these things easier for them, be it by them automating that directly in the bank itself, or a third-party app, for example, that can be built to solve that for a wide number of businesses, right? So or it could be automated treasury management. Think of a business where that's dealing, Georgia's a relatively small market comparably, and a lot of businesses are dealing regionally or globally, or and I think that they're operating in multiple different currencies, and their positions, their currency, and the position of their assets are not always efficient because it's very operationally heavy to say, you know what, my payables are coming in dollar, my receivables are coming in dollars and euros and GBP, and now I have to, manage my salary and the payroll in Lari and some of my payables and also in Lari, but I also have, I need to manage all these currencies. And when is the best time to do it? Why can't we automate some of these treasury functions to work for businesses? And so this is what I mean about programmability. It's hyper customizability, and then it's about what specific tools will allow this. Will it be tech-savvy businesses putting in their own code, or third-party apps that are going to be used to build that into? And that's what we're bringing to the market in Georgia and also globally.
Salim, what is Pave Bank's business model?
The lucky part of this answer is that it's the oldest business in the world. It's banking. I think banks are very much, they make the business model is very much dependent on net interest margin. And which is, the difference between the cost of money and the revenue generated from lending it out, or placing it into high quality liquid assets or or like interest bearing products. And on the other flip side is fee-based income. I think throughout the evolution of banking, we've seen like very archaic banks charge huge fees, and then we've seen, newer banks come in and say, well, okay, they came in and said, hey, we're gonna make it free. I don't think that's the free's the answer. I think those business models have retracted. I think for us, the way we look at I think the philosophical approach is the most important here. We want to bring technology to the forefront of how we build a bank and make it so efficient that we can be the best priced and value, delivering the most value for businesses in Georgia and also globally. I think that's our core proposition, and the model is the classical model, where we're very focused on net interest margin and fee-based income.
But at the same time, you are a B2B business, right?
Yes, of course. I mean, we focus on businesses, SMEs, businesses, corporates, large businesses. We don't, this is the most, almost, the economies are driven by their SMEs. Corporates can come in, but economies are dependent, and rightly so, of local businesses that are growing, hiring people, and contributing to the economic growth. And we need to help these businesses, and that's our mission. Our mission is to help these businesses, operate efficiently, have the best banking products in Georgia, but also at the same time help them go beyond Georgia's borders. How can we help these businesses look to a addressable market that is not 4 million, but 400 million? And I think that's what makes us really excited. And so, yes, to answer your question very short and succinctly, yes, B2B models, yes.
license. On December 15th, 2023, Pave Bank was granted the digital banking license from the National Bank of Georgia. This day actually was the same day when Georgia was granted the EU candidacy status from the European Council, so quite a coincidence. So I'd like to ask you about the process that Pave Bank and your team underwent through with the National Bank of Georgia. What was it like?
It's a big question. Firstly, I couldn't believe the coincidence myself. I was really happy. It was two fantastic things that happened on the same day, and we were very happy about that. Been in financial services for I think 15 years now, if not more, and I've dealt with many regulators, and they all have good qualities and challenges in their own rights. NBG. When I first came to meet NBG over 12 months ago, I was always skeptical. Everyone says that they're a great regulator, and I was you take everything with a pinch of salt, as they say. Honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised, and this is not just because we're on public television. I really mean that. I think that regulations are important. Regulators that push the needle on what the best regulation is, but in the right way that is quite conservative in terms of measuring risk. That's what we found, the right balance, and I really believe that they're almost like a startup regulator, right? In the best possible sense, they're willing to listen to new business models, put in and I believe that you're seeing that with the digital banking licenses, not for us, I mean for the whole country, right? And we're seeing that with the open banking sandbox, we're seeing that with the CBDC project. So I think on a general basis, it's a very forward-thinking regulator, and it's all under one roof, which is very good. So it's easy to have those conversations, and everyone there is actually quite, extremely skilled at what they do. On specifically on our process, I think it was very good. It was very fair. It was very detailed, which is what we expect. I think that you can't have a simple process. If it's too simple, you don't have credibility. And so you need to have a balance. You need it to be efficient from a capital allocation perspective in terms of how much time are we spending, and resource allocation, how much time are we spending to get this license, and what does it allow us to do. But at the same time, if it's not without the right oversight or without the right due diligence, then it doesn't work on the credibility side. So I think the balance was very much struck, and I really have a lot of respect for the National Bank of Georgia for doing this with all the participants and generally in the market as well.
Salim, as you just mentioned, you have 15 years of experience in the financial sector. This includes Singapore, Malaysia, big economically strong countries. But then you decided to launch a new bank in Georgia. Why? Georgia
is a very unique market. It is very stable. I think from an economic standpoint, you have a very stable financial system. There is a lot of integration. We're coming, as we move into the EU with the candidacy status, and I'm sure in the next 3 to 4 years we'll continue to see harmonization of policies and regulations as well. For me, the government and the forward thinking generally of the whole establishment as a whole, without generally speaking, all moving forward, all trying to be as innovative was very important to us as well. And that drive and that push, along with a strong civic society, to us is an ideal place to base our commercial operations. We look for stability, as every business would do. That's the first thing. I think secondly, geopolitically, Georgia is in a very unique place. It is sitting at the crossroads of the middle trade corridor. I believe we'll start seeing more international businesses that want to trade with the EU bloc, probably find themselves being based here as transport links continue to improve. I think these present very big opportunities, not only for Georgian businesses, for the Georgian population, but also as these key elements develop over the next let's say 5-10 years, the financial infrastructure needs to be there. And so we see, if I just reiterate, the harmonization of policy, the stability, and the actual potential as we look at the FTAs, the free trade agreements with Europe and with China and the East, and bridging these two huge regions. I think Georgia can play a very pivotal role, and we see that as a very big opportunity over the next 10, 20, 50 years as we look forward.
Salim, let's move to yet another very important topic, which includes the people who are going to execute the vision that you have for Pave Bank. Who are these people? Who are your co-founders, and what background do they have?
Yeah, absolutely. The business is built with its people, and I think that I share a couple. I have a couple philosophies that are very close to me in terms of how we operate a business, and we've done some things right that we want to continue doing, some things wrong in the previous businesses that we want to kind of reiterate on, and this is the beauty of building businesses. One of the things that we look for is the best talent. No exceptions, no compromise, best talent. But the best talent has to have the right work culture and the work ethic, and I think that for us is extremely important. And we are continuously surprised with the level of talent that we find in Georgia. And we continue to see, and we want to play a part in upskilling and pushing people to think globally and think internationally, and that's how we plan to grow our biggest operational base in Georgia. My co-founders, fantastic. So Simon Vans Kalina, he was at Citibank, at Vocalink. He was one of the early team members of Starling Bank in the UK. Then went to be a part of the founding team of Monzo Bank, also in the UK. We worked together for a brief stint after that as well, but really understands how to build a bank from the ground up. And that's a very unique skill, and I think there's probably maybe 100 people in the world that have probably done this before, recently, in recent years. And then Dimitri, a seasoned banker, worked for Ferratum, which is DAX listed, then went to Vietnam to work for VP Bank, and really built out a lot of fintechs and how the bank interacted with fintechs. And we worked together for about 4 years in Singapore as well. And I think that bringing the breadth of the founders and really complement each other, which is really great. And then the team. We have managed to find the right real leaders in product and compliance and commercial throughout our business, and tech leaders in our business. And so we're really pleasantly surprised, not that we had any doubt, but really surprised with the level of talent and the depth of talent in the market as well. And we hope to play a contributing part in helping even grow that as much as we can going forward.
Salim, how many employees do you have at this moment in time at Pave Bank?
We've got 13 people in Georgia, part of our team, and they range from technology, product, on the compliance side and the AML side as well, and the risk side, where we found a fantastic talent pool, as I mentioned before. I think that the nature of businesses and the way they grow with the tools that are available have changed, have fundamentally shifted. If you look at AI, as an example, fundamentally shifted how businesses operate and the efficiencies within which they can operate. Now, we'll obviously continue to hire, and we have really ambitious growth plans for how we plan to scale the teams, but we want highly skilled teams that can use these technologies and then really add to that, I would say, productivity and GDP contribution going forward, which I think is a really big paradigm shift that is in Georgia's advantage as well, going back to the previous point that we were talking about.
The goals you just mentioned are always aligned with the vision that usually the co-founders or the executive team have for the company. In terms of Pave Bank, what is the vision for the future?
We want to change the way all businesses interact with their bank around the world. We believe that the nature of money will change, and as the nature of money and value changes, we want to be the venue where a lot of these interactions take place. And I believe it's an ambitious vision, but I believe it's achievable. And I think that it takes time. Businesses, there are some businesses you can build a software business and you can build it overnight. And I think there are some businesses that are built more slowly, and for good reason. You have prudential oversight, you have a responsibility to the public to operate responsibly and with stability. It's depositors that we're talking about. And we see this, as I mentioned, we see this as a 10, 15, 20-year vision. And the good thing about it now, is really funny, because I talk about programmability of banking and programmability of assets and value and money, and it was often like a bit of an esoteric term. People will look at me partially like they're being nice and like they're listening, they understand exactly what I'm saying. I think two things have happened. One, I think I've gotten a bit better at articulating what we're doing. The second thing that I think has happened is, the large banks and large financial institutions have also started bringing that, there was a nomenclature and there was a verbiage into the space. So, we talked about JP Morgan Onyx and programmable payments. They talked about Citibank doing something similar too. So I think we are seeing the fruition of these layers that enable us to achieve our vision and really bring that to a large-scale number of businesses as well, globally.
Salim, to summarize the interview in a way, I'd like to ask you the question about the procedure that's going to happen next. So what should customers expect from Pave Bank, and what is the possible time frame for all of this?
Yeah. So as per the licensing framework, we have up to 7 months to go live. Like everything, we operate on a timeline of yesterday. That's usually how startups will probably operate. We want to go very fast. We're expecting, late Q1 or early Q2 to really start rolling out the early phases. I think when you roll out a business, when you start a business, especially in the tech space, you'll always see iterations. You'll see very quick iterations in the early days. So we'll really roll out in a very controlled approach to make sure that we're giving the best value and the best experience to all of our business customers. We expect to start off with our basic set of products around payments, around deposit accounts, multiple currencies, and we hope to very quickly expand from there in terms of multi-asset and perhaps lending and loans down the line as well. But these are things will take time, and we are actively working with our first set of customers to really make sure that we're hitting the chords with the value they want to see with the bank as well, within the constraints of our products, of course, as well. So you expect to see it very soon. You expect to see a very unique proposition in the market, and we're all very excited about it, on our side at least.
Salim, thank you very much for your time and for the interview. We wish you good luck to you personally and Pave Bank, of course.
Didi Madlova, thank you very much to you. Thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure to have this conversation. Thank you.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.